We actually have a guy from the State Department on tape saying, yeah, this is the purpose of this. This is the Democrats. This is what they're doing. They're using the Great Replacement to rig elections. They want the country to be less white because white people vote Republican. White people are conservatives. Here's the video.
Goal. Why are they allowing it?
They want to change the demographics of the United States. They really do. Because I mean, no, honestly, the people from Nebraska, like my family's like Americans that have, my family's been in the United States for 400 years. Traditional standard Americans are not leftists. Latin America's all leftists, and it's just, it literally is. This is just to try to change the demographics.
So you have the video here from Project Veritas. I have an undercover guy speaking with the State Department official, and he comes out and says, look, it's really simple. White guys in Nebraska, they're not leftists. They're conservatives. They're naturally conservative. The basic default setting of the United States white population, the traditional population, yes, the heritage population, heritage Americans, tend to be very conservative. Like at the very least, like center-right conservatives. And they're not going to vote for radical leftist policies. They don't want it. So what do you do in a liberal democracy? What do you do if you're the Democrats and you need to push this radical progressive agenda, but the native population isn't really interested? And the answer is you replace them. And by the way, this has been the policy of the left for basically ever. They've recognized this dynamic for a long time. Leftism cannot win in America. It is not sustainable in America without replacing the population, without demographic replacement. It's critical that they replace the people who live here. Because as they said, the people in Nebraska, natural conservatives. The people coming across the border, the Latin Americans that you're always told, you have the George and Jeb Bushes saying, oh, well, these are natural Americans. They're natural conservatives. They have family values. They're Catholic. They're Christian. They're going to be right wing. They're going to be conservative. No, they're not. Actually, they're natural leftists. If for no other reason than when they get here, they want stuff. They want protection. They want advantages that they don't have because they're new immigrants. And so they give their loyalty to the left. So, the State Department's not confused as to why they want this policy. Why does the left want mass immigration? To replace you demographically. It's not just to replace your principles, not just replacing your abstract principles. It's not because you're super double loyal to the Constitution. They want to replace you because of your race. They want to replace you because of the color of your skin. Because they know, frankly, the left is not hesitating on this. The State Department's not hesitating to say this. White people, the color of their skin seems to indicate they're more likely to vote a specific way. Now, obviously, that's not the case all across the board. Not all, obviously. Significant portion of white people do vote leftists, and there are plenty of minorities that minority voters who do vote conservative, though disproportionately it is almost always them breaking the left to the left. Hispanics, except in the last election, Indians, Chinese, Jews, they all vote left. Asians in general, they usually vote 65, 70% or more for the left. Obviously, blacks are considered a monolithic voting bloc for the left. But there's always like 10% of blacks who vote conservative. And there's, the 20, 30% of Jews who vote conservative. There's the 20, 30% of Asians that vote conservative. So again, it's not all. We can find some of the worst human beings. What's the Nick Land quote? Never become so racist that you forget that the worst people in the world are white leftists. But ultimately, when we're just looking at the wide demographic spread, when we're just looking at the raw numbers, you can predict how an election is going to go by how many white people are in an area. If it's more, you're probably going to get a conservative. If it's less, you're probably going to get a liberal. Again, not all, not across the board, not every time. But this is generally how it works. And the left knows this. This is not a crazy right-wing talking point. It's the left's strategy. It's what the State Department openly admits is the left's strategy. So there's no confusion here for anybody except, for some reason, conservatives about how this works. And Elon Musk is aware of this, which is what he says. He points out, look, it's a hatred of white people, but it's also politically advantageous for these people to replace the white population. But even though that is something that the Democrats will announce out loud and can also be revealed in undercover videos of the State Department. I promise you, this video is going to end up getting the wrong think badge for the great replacement under it. I've had it happen several times. To this day, YouTube, if you have anything mentioning demographic replacement in your title or in your description, will flag your video as having wrong think on it. You'll get the little Wikipedia saying, this is a conspiracy theory. Even better, it's a white nationalist conspiracy theory, even though it's literally what the Democrats announced their plan to be, even though it's literally what the State Department says the Democrats' plan is. It's listed as a conspiracy because that's what they want you to believe. They don't want you to actually think about it or look at it. So obviously, Elon Musk is very aware of this problem, right? Like, he grasps the dire nature of what is going on, the sinister nature of what is being leveled at European Americans. Again, it is bad to wipe out any racial group. It is bad to try to ethnically cleanse this place, America, just like it's bad to ethnically cleanse other places. So this isn't like, oh, you only need to protect European civilization, or it's only bad to ethnically cleanse Europeans. No, I think it's bad to do that in general. But we don't talk about why it's bad for whites, even though we acknowledge it's bad for every other group. So when we have people openly stating, yeah, it's our intention to ethnically cleanse America because we have to make it less white so Democrats can win more elections, I think it's reasonable to come out and say that's a problem. Like, the fact that we have such a difficulty acknowledging that when we would call it out immediately anywhere else is just insane. Right? I hear a lot of people whining about the ethnic cleansing in Israel and Gaza and all that, Palestinians, and yeah, fair enough. But I often don't hear those same people spending a whole lot of time talking about the ethnic cleansing happening here in Europe. And not always, of course. There are people who are opposed to what Israel is doing right now that also, point out demographic problems in Europe and in America. But I see them far more obsessed with whatever's happening in Gaza than they are the ongoing thing that's happening in Europe and the United States as we speak. So if Elon understands all this stuff, what's with the H-1B support, right? Now, I'll say this. It's been a while. It's been it's been over a year since Elon's famous Christmas crash out on the H-1Bs, where he and Vivek went nuts and started fighting and threatening. And, it was Elon who was really, to be fair, Vivek's original post was bad. It was very bad, but it was Elon that really decided to get in there and knife fight over it, to constantly be hitting it, to constantly be attacking people on it. And so it has been over a year since that happened. And it could be that things have just gotten worse and Elon has recognized how bad they've gotten. Maybe he has changed his mind over the time. I don't know. If he hasn't really announced that. He hasn't said, okay, I understand I was wrong about H-1Bs. I'm, looking at what's happening in Europe and America. I understand the seriousness of mass immigration. I understand H-1Bs are part of that. And so I need to, kind of step back and, change and reformulate how I understand immigration. Maybe he is doing that, but he hasn't announced that. And so I can only really go off of where he is right now that I know. Maybe he has changed his mind, but the last update we had was, despite recognizing these obvious problems, he is not addressing them when it comes to what he thinks of as high-skilled immigration. Now, I think this is a fallacy in of itself. Obviously, we have a lot of H-1Bs coming in the United States, and very few of them are actually high-skilled immigration. We have a lot of people coming in H-1Bs for entry-level jobs, internships, things that are not high skill, that are not something you need a seasoned veteran for. They're literally coming in at the entry level, which is the definition of not needing that high skill H-1B. And yet it happens all the time. Now, for Elon, maybe he uses more of those, right? Maybe he uses far more high skilled H-1Bs than most people, while everyone else is, bringing in guys to undercut a programmer or, manage a 7-Eleven. Elon is saying, actually, no, I really am bringing in some really bright guys who are just doing something no one else is doing. Maybe he's the one guy who's using the H-1B correctly. I don't know. I can't say I've done an audit of all of his companies and who he brings in. So maybe his experience with H-1B workers is different, but he needs to be smart enough. I mean, he's a smart guy, needs to be, I guess, wise enough is the better word here, to apply, to be able to see beyond his own experience. Okay, maybe you, Elon Musk, running SpaceX and Tesla, are getting like the cream of the crop of the H-1Bs. And so your experience is every H-1B guy I bring over here is a rocket scientist. So yeah, of course they're great. Okay, maybe. I still have problems with that, but I guess I can at least sympathize with having that narrow experience. And maybe he simply needs to be able to project himself into these other, industries where it's clear that the H-1B is being used as an ethnic replacement tool. Because remember, about 80% of H-1B workers are Indian. That stat is staggering. Of all the countries that could use H-1B, 80% almost is coming from one country, and that country is India. And I'm sorry, but the IQ in India is not 130, right? Like, that's not the average IQ there. Hey guys, if you've been watching this show for a while, then you know that around here we encourage something that conservatives usually don't do. Winning. If you like what I'm doing here and you want to keep it going, then head over to Blaze TV. They have the behind-the-scenes content, exclusives, and documentaries that you're just not going to see anywhere else. So go to blazetv.com/Oren and subscribe today. The promo code is AURON and you'll save $20 right now off the annual plan.